We are in the sun-soaked Málaga to ride the new BMW R 1300 GSA. You've already seen the GS version of this. We rode it back in Ladakh, but here it's going to be a little different. We are going to take this motorcycle all the way to the southern tip of Spain, all the way to Tarifa. On the way, we are going to be riding on some winding roads, some dirt sections. They're promising a lot of off-road because, hey, come on, this is the GSA. So we are taking the long way round. And it promises to be quite exciting. BMW's R 1300 GSA isn't just another adventure bike. It's an imposing piece of engineering built to stare down the toughest terrains with a smirk. While it maintains the iconic GS silhouette, the design has evolved with more aggressive, boxy lines. So let's talk about the elephant in the room before we talk about the big elephant, right? So the design. We've all made our jokes. We said, yeah, it's got a bit of that Pan Am inspiration. Well, you know what? Let's just throw all those jokes out of the window because now that I'm seeing it in the flesh, honestly, I'm blown away. It's not infatuation. I've been wrapping my head around it for the last 2 days, but yeah, it's just beautiful. The form, yes, sometimes it feels like it's inspired from the old BMW GS key because the new one's gone a little diamond shape. The old one looks a lot like that with the tank and the horizontal lines that you see. But yeah, when they say that it was inspired by a Swiss knife, I kind of agree because it's not just the form but also the function that makes it very much like a Swiss knife. Now, if you were to compare it to the 1300 GS, that's got a more attacking stance, a more lean forward stance. This one, however, has more horizontal lines no matter which side you look at it from. And I say which side because even the front end is quite wide and it's accentuated further by those horizontal aux lamps which go very well with the straightish lines of this bike. Now, a lot of you complain that the GS lacks the presence of its predecessors. The GSA, however, looks very, very imposing. So if that's your thing, if you want to pick up the GS or the GSA for that imposing stance, then the elder sibling is what you want to go with. So what contributes to this imposing stance? Now, what differentiates the GSA is everything that contributes to that imposing stance. So what you get primarily is the big, massive 30-litre tank. That's been the traditional GSA thing. You also get longer suspension travel compared to the GS. You're also going to get a longer subframe. Both are running aluminum subframes for that lightweight, but this one's going to go longer to give you a bigger pillion seat and to also give you better luggage mounting points and better load-bearing capacity. Speaking of luggage, in fact, every nook and corner that you see on the motorcycle, like these bits here, or even the panels right here, or even the quarter panels here, they are all designed to be function over form. Despite being built like a tank, the GSA's build quality is anything but agricultural. Every bolt and weld feels over-engineered in true BMW fashion, as if they expect you to ride straight into the apocalypse and come out on the other side grinning. From cobbles to gravel to trails that would make a mountain goat reconsider its life choices, the GSA stands tall and takes it all in its stride. What that means is you will be able to get luggage systems on all these parts, 160 liters of luggage to be precise. So traveling with your home shouldn't be a problem at all, and I know that a lot of GS owners are still going to want more. They'll still want to, spec it up even further, but it gives you options to do all of that because both in terms of the chassis and in terms of the engine, the GSA is very capable of moving your entire house for you. Pre-dawn starts in Tarifa's misty darkness were no issue, with a bright uniform glow lighting the way like a mobile lighthouse. Despite the intimidating 260 plus kilo weight on paper, the GSA feels superbly balanced once you're moving. Navigating the tight Málaga roundabouts or weaving through damp, mist-shrouded roads never felt intimidating, thanks to the GSA's meticulous weight balance. It's a bike that welcomes seasoned adventurers, but remains approachable for newcomers to the GS world. Kicking off from Málaga, we hit the open highways, and the GSA's updated 1300cc Boxer Twin roared to life with all the drama you would hope for from a true adventure machine of this caliber. Producing a robust 145 PS and 149 Newton meters of torque, it shares its gusty character with the 1300 GS we tackled Ladakh with earlier this year.
The engine remains unchanged over the 1300 GS, so you're going to get the same kind of power output, same kind of torque output, a little bit of change in the tuning to accommodate the different suspension travel, the additional weight, etc. But that's about it. On the move, both of them feel very sprightly, and if you just want to do that laid-back cruising, both these machines are going to do that quite well too. The other standard bit, of course, is the engine protection parts that you get. Some of the other protection parts, the weather protection that you get, that is going to be over and above what you get with the 1300 GS.
Even with the added bulk of the GSA, the power delivery is immense. Snap the throttle open and you're met with a surge that makes overtaking or blasting out of corners an absolute joy. BMW has fine-tuned the power delivery for a smoother experience compared to the 1250 GSA. But don't mistake smooth for boring. Twist the throttle and you are launched forward with torque so massive, it makes rival bikes feel like they are throwing tantrums instead of delivering power. The GSA doesn't do peaky or unpredictable, it does hold my beer and powers through corners and straight roads like a champ.
The other difference is going to be the ride height. It's not just the suspension travel, but also the seat height that is higher. You're looking at between 850 to 870 millimeters, at least at the time of testing this motorcycle. There are going to be comfort options. Of course, you'll be getting a lower seat, a comfort seat. You will be able to get a lowering kit. All of that is going to be there. And then there is also the adaptive ride height, which will not only maintain the ride height depending on the pillion, the luggage, the weight on it, so it will adjust the preload, but it will also, when you come to a standstill, when you are at slow speeds, also drop the height for you. Now, this is something that we saw with the 1300 GS, but we couldn't test it because it was only available on the triple black in the Indian scheme of things. Here, however, they've been offering this on all the variants that we rode, and yes, it works really well. Even with a heavy motorcycle like this, the moment you come to a halt, it quickly drops. You'll not even feel the dropping happening, and then you can get your feet flat on the ground. So whether you are riding off the road or just pulling over at a traffic light, anything, it will always make it very manageable.
Where many large displacement bikes struggle with low speed control, the GSA keeps it manageable, offering power from the base of the rev range to maintain momentum. When we ventured onto rocky trails, that low down torque kept things under control, and the weight distribution had me feeling far braver than I probably should. And if you want to test its top speed north of 200 kilometers an hour, just make sure you've got the right insurance, for research purposes.
Speaking of making the big GS manageable, what they've also done is an automatic transmission. Yes, you get an auto shift assist now, ASA, on the brochures. Now, this is going to be different than the DCT that we've seen with Honda or the AMT that we saw with Yamaha. Yes, it is pretty much like the AMT, but it's going to take a slightly different approach compared to what we saw on the Yamaha MT-09. But let's keep that comparison aside. The main comparison is obviously going to be with the Africa Twin DCT. For beginners, this is a much lighter system. It adds about 2.5 kgs over and above the stock engine and sequential gearbox that the motorcycle runs. The DCT adds almost 10 kilos. The DCT is also quite sensitive to the hot conditions that we have in India. Of course, Honda has proven its reliability, but we know that the DCTs can sometimes get affected by those hot riding conditions. This gearbox, however, is not going to face that problem. Like I said, it's the conventional gearbox. It's just a computer doing the clutch and the shifting for you. You still get a conventional gear selector down below, but it's not going to make any changes or move anything inside the gearbox. It's a shift by wire. So it's more of a controller that is only going to shift for you. So the moment you want that manual override, all you need to do is just shift the way you conventionally would, downshift, upshift, and it's going to override the automatic system for you. Now, the shift times, whether you do it manually or the system does it on its own, it's hardly 50 milliseconds. That's quick. So pulling that quick overtake or just downshifting quickly in case you are not happy with what the system is doing for you, maybe for say a panic braking situation or something like that, it's super quick. I tried my level best to find faults with it, and honestly, I couldn't. Out on the highway, it performs exceptionally well. Pulling overtakes, no problem at all. You hit the twisties, it does exceptionally well too. And when you're off the road, it's like a revelation, because you see, one of the biggest concerns that we have while off-roading is, especially with heavy motorcycles like these, What if you stall the bike? The next thing that happens is managing that weight becomes a problem and you end up dropping the bike. It may be in an awkward spot, it may be in an awkward position, and that just makes the whole life difficult. Here, it will give you the confidence to even venture out all by yourself, because stalling the motorcycle is impossible with the ASA, which means that dropping the bike, that's one less thing to worry about. Of course, the physics might take over on slushy terrain or whatever and you might still drop it, but that's one less thing to worry about. And even off the road, that auto worked really well. So it's not just a computer system that is doing the clutching and the shifting for you. It will also change its behavior as per the riding mode that you've selected, and that is what makes all the difference. So for example, if I'm in road mode, pulling overtakes, like I said, no problem at all. But the moment I hit the twisties, if I move to dynamic or dynamic pro, the behavior of the engine changes, the behavior of the automatic changes as well. These are learnings that BMW has from their car world as well, right? So they know what kind of engine braking you want. Then they have data from so many GS riders, so they know what kind of engine braking you want with a motorcycle. And it does all of that so well. The rev matching, the downshifting, it happens so precisely. It's almost telepathic. And the same thing off the road. It will not upshift too quickly. It will not downshift abruptly. It almost feels telepathic, like I said, and you'll have to ride it to believe it. In fact, I am completely sold on this tech. What you also get is that conventional shifter, like I mentioned, and that is something that I really like. The other manufacturers that are taking this automatic approach are now putting switches on the cube there, and they want you to shift using plus and minus buttons on the handlebar, and I think that's very unintuitive. We've been doing this for hundreds of years. We've been changing gears like that for hundreds of years now. So why reinvent the wheel? That's the ideal way forward, and I think that having that, and it's not an accessory, it's a standard fit on the ASA, having that I think makes a lot of sense. Whether you're riding in the twisties or riding off the road, that is very intuitive, and even with no clutch lever, getting your shifts, getting that manual override is absolutely easy.
In a nutshell, the automatic on the GS is a real game changer. The gear changes are so precise, they would make a Swiss watch blush. And even when I tried to trip it across various terrains and riding scenarios, it didn't falter. No clunky shifts, no delays, just pure telepathic smoothness.
Now, like I said, the elephant in the room, the size of the motorcycle, right? Whether you're riding off-road, whether you're hitting the twisties, you will be amazed at what this motorcycle can do. Irrespective of whether you're going with the automatic or the manual, that weight is masked so well. The way the motorcycle enters corners, the way it picks up and exits corners, the kind of agility that you have, the nimbleness that you have is unbelievable. You look at the motorcycle and it looks very intimidating. They made the GS quite tiny and they made it look very small because they wanted to take that intimidation factor away. But with the GSA, they're still going ahead with that imposing stance, but out on the road, that weight just disappears.
BMW's telelever and paralever suspension systems are like the unsung heroes on the GS. Steady, reliable, and ready to make you look better than you actually are. As for safety, BMW's packed in all the features you could dream of. ABS Pro, traction control, and combined braking. They operate quietly in the background, like a stealthy guardian angel. Even when we found ourselves on loose gravel that felt better suited for seasoned hikers than bikers, these systems worked in harmony to keep the ride composed and confidence-inspiring.
You will, like I said, have to ride it to believe what I'm saying. I am absolutely impressed. Now, if I had to upgrade from my 1250, I'd said that the 1300 GS doesn't really give me that much more to want to upgrade. But now with that ASA and with that big size of the 1300 GSA, I think if I were upgrading, I might just consider the automatic. Yes, I said it.
Starting at an estimated 23 to 24 lakh rupees ex-showroom, the R1300 GSA is a serious financial commitment. It isn't the kind of bike you buy for weekend rides around the neighborhood. No, this is a machine for those who seek adventure touring as a way of life. The question isn't so much about whether it's worth the price. Rather, it's about whether you will make the most of what this engineering marvel has to offer.
I'm an out-and-out manual guy, but the ASA is so good that I just might want to upgrade to this. And finally, to sum it up, if you had to choose between the 1300 GS and the GSA, I would go with the GSA because honestly, it's a little bit more money than the GS. So if you really are on a tight budget, the GS will do 95% of the things that the GSA is going to do. But if you want the maximum value, the maximum bang for your buck, it is going to be the GSA. The luggage systems, the protection parts, the extra storage, the extra comfort, everything that it gives you is just going to make it a more value for money proposition. And then honestly, if you get one of these, there's nothing left to upgrade to. This is the kind of bike you would want to ride into the sunset with.